My name is James Kaikis. I'm currently the founder and CEO of GTMshift, an organization that is dedicated to the future of go-to-market. Many of you might know me from my time at Pre-Sales Collective as the co-founder of Pre-Sales Collective. Shout out to Yuji Higashi, my co-founder, who's here in the audience, doing some incredible work with Better Career. But why I wanted to highlight that is that when we were hosting events around the world, London was always the best market. It always was. We held so many amazing events here that always turned up. And the thing about the London market, and really the UK and EMEA in general, is that you're hungry. You want to learn. You want to lean in. And so I just want to thank you all for being here today and for Consensus for having me. Again, by way of introduction, I was a solutions engineer. I was the first solutions engineer at two companies in Revenate and Showpad. Showpad was a Belgium-based company, and Revenate, I used to run implementation and onboarding from Europe, Middle East, and Africa from San Francisco. So I spent a lot of time in Amsterdam, spent most of my career in working with European companies before I went to Salesforce and ultimately started Pre-Sales Collective and then became the CRO at Testbox. And why I am so excited to be here today is I just think that this is such a great moment. I was sitting in the back when Doug was presenting, just kind of like pounding my fist right now because it is such an exciting time and there's so many things we're going to talk about today that can be a little bit scary, right? The disruption is real, but we're going to spend, the next 40 minutes talking about, why you're here and how we're going to help you in this next innovation and something I call the great go-to-market shift. And so I spent a lot of time thinking, like, why did you all show up here? I mean, this is a pretty insanely packed room, really incredible. Why did you show up? What are you looking for? What value can you get out of today's conversation? And I think the biggest ask, and Doug had a very similar ask, and I didn't see Doug's presentation, but there's a lot of very similar concepts here of we need to embrace the change. I need you to have a beginner's mindset for today's conversation. I'm going to ask you not to think, oh, that won't work for me. Let's embrace the change that's ahead of us and take this as a massive opportunity. And we're going to talk really about why AI is a multiplier and a superpower for us. And really, and the most important aspect, how it will impact the customer experience, because our customers are demanding that of us. The bar has been too low for too long. And so I joke that in the media and the news, there's just so much happening and it's so scary and moving so quickly. Over the weekend, I literally saw a humanoid doing karate with a human. I mean, it was just unbelievable the things that are happening on the humanoid side, right? We have SpaceX catching rockets with chopsticks. I mean, literally, like they're sending rockets in the air and catching them back. And if you've seen some of the innovations in drones and drone technology, there's these incredible light shows and music and making movements that we've never seen before. I was just in San Francisco over the last couple of weeks, and you can't go more than a couple blocks without seeing a billboard that says you're going to get replaced by AI, which is just incredibly wrong. And then you hear agent, 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 agent. And so a lot of us, including myself, are just feeling this angst. We're feeling this moment of what do I do? How do I perform? Sometimes we just put our head in the sand. We've got our own pressures that we'll talk about and go to market, but we should be thinking about things differently. Because I talked about the macro things that are happening in our personal life, but how about go to market? The speed of change is unlike anything any of us have ever seen, right? Every week there's, a reduction in force, right? You're hearing about product moats and moats vanishing. Expanded job responsibilities, changing in functions. These things are happening at light speed. And many of us have been running a playbook, and a playbook that we've been running for a couple decades, and that playbook is starting to be outdated. And it's a really scary time. It's a really scary time to be a go-to-market professional. Like, we sit in this center of chaos. The pressures of our bosses, of our CEOs, of our boards and investors just come crashing down on us. And the reality is that we're under pressure and we're burnt out. I thought this image would be a good image for a presentation here in London. The data will tell you that almost everybody in B2B SaaS is overwhelmed and overworked, and more than half of those people are burnt out. And so again, all of these pressures, all these things happening in the macro, all these things happening in our personal lives, our business lives, and we are supposed to show up and be the best version of ourselves every single day. It's hard. I've spent the last couple of days here in London talking to many professionals who are struggling. You know, you have employees on your team, let's just say you need to backfill, and then all of a sudden they leave and you can't backfill them and you're asked to then reduce the team size. You're asked to do more with less. Or as David Yokelson has told me in the past, less with less. And so this is a moment for us because this is our moment. We might be feeling the stress and the pressure and I don't know where to start or I don't know where to begin, but I want you all to think of this as an opportunity. And this is a concept I've been talking about and building over the last 9 months because I feel like we have a level playing field for the first time in maybe 20 or 25 years. Doug just mentioned it. The App Store wasn't around until 2008. And think about what has happened with apps in those last 20 years, and how many companies have started, and how many of us have jobs because of that innovation. I think that we have a level playing field for the first time. There's a great equalizer here right now. And there's a lot of unknown, but we should embrace this because there's many people in this room that are well equipped for this next phase of go-to-market. And so I want to talk about the triggers for change. And again, something that I'm calling the great go-to-market shift because I'm sure you're tired of hearing it, but you know, demos are dead, disco's dead, SDRs are dead, everything's dead at this point. You know, if you look at the predictable revenue model, it's probably under attack, right? I don't know about you, but I'm tired of answering the same questions from a BDR and an AE and an SC and an SA and a PS and a CS, right? And that's the experience that many of us are having. But we're living through this incredible shift. And this was something that was presented at Pavilion's conference last week in Washington, DC. And I'm very proud of this moment because I was at the CRO Summit for Pavilion in June and made a comment that no one has ever been a CRO in 2026. No one's ever been a CRO in 2027, so we need to lean in. We need to have that beginner's mindset. And Pavilion, took that concept and ran with it because they believe that the go-to-market of the future looks very different than the go-to-market operator of the last 1 to 2 decades. And I'd encourage you to take pictures, take notes on this because this go-to-market operator looks a lot like the people in this room. AI native, tech forward, P&L fluent, resilient leader, cross-functional. And as I mentioned, the predictable revenue model and the org structures we all grew up with are changing. CROs are not VPs of sales. CMOs are becoming CROs. Pre-sales is becoming solutions. Customer success is sometimes being realigned under sales or solutions leaders. There are a lot of changes happening, and I think the time is now for many people in this room. And so I could talk in theories and talk at a high level, but I want to get into the meat of it because I've lived this over the last 9 months. And as Doug mentioned, I was a CRO of TestBox, and I built an AI-first go-to-market org. And I've seen a lot of things. I'm going to highlight those. But we're going to talk through the three key concepts of today's presentation. If the buyer's needs are evolving, a go-to-market innovators framework, and the great go-to-market shift. Because buyers' needs are evolving, and I don't need to tell you all of these stats because you've heard them before, but if anyone knows this guy, Garen Hess wrote this incredible book years ahead of his time saying, selling is hard, buying is harder. And it's absolutely true. And Forrester will tell you that 86% of purchases stall because buyers struggle with information. The sales process is too complex. They don't really have the confidence to make a decision. You heard this from Doug. 75% of buyers prefer a rep-free experience. Think about it, right? I don't want to talk to someone who can't deliver me value, who's just banting me to death. I don't want to have that conversation. I can go and self-serve and probably do a better job than what they can tell me in the sales process. And this is the crazy stat. Forrester will tell you 81% of buyers express dissatisfaction with their chosen provider because we've grown up in an era where we could just sell the dream and onboard the nightmare. There was no accountability for what happens after the signature. I've been a solutions engineer, a CRO for most of my career. Contract signed, great. We all celebrate, we all get paid, we go have parties, and then guess what? The customer's nightmare begins. It's just the reality. It's just the reality. And so I'm here to tell you that there's a change happening. That trust and value are the ultimate currency. Think about it. When I'm going to go and buy software, I go to G2. I call my friends who bought software. I ask them about their experience. I don't just ask them about their buying experience. I ask them about the value experience. How much value are you getting out of that product? Okay? And when I think about a sales process, I just mentioned, I don't want to be bantered to death. I don't want to talk to an SDR all the time. I want to talk to someone who's got a point of view that can help me, that can move me through the journey that I'm about to go on. And so trust and value are the ultimate currency, and that is a core concept of what we're going to talk about today. And so I want to get into the meat. I want to get into the details because I've been living this, and a framework that I've been working on since earlier this year called the Go-to-Market Shift Innovators Framework. Because like many people in this room, I was hearing it everywhere. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start. That is just the reality of where we're at. So we're going to spend the next few minutes walking through tactical examples and tangible takeaways. And so this is where I do want to invite you, just like Doug invited you to post on LinkedIn. You're doing a lot of posting on LinkedIn today. I think everyone's going to ask you to do it. Take pictures, take notes, think about takeaways that you can bring to your business. Because as we talked about it, this change is because we need to be more customer focused. And AI is powering that journey. It's allowing us to deliver a better customer experience, to do more than we've ever been able to do, be better with our time. I don't know about you, but I really love putting notes in Salesforce. It's just one of my favorite things. And I love that they pay me for it. And so as we think about the framework, right, how do we get better with our time? How do we use AI as a multiplier? And so there's 4 steps in this framework: identify, experiment, embed, and impact, okay? And for many of us, we're probably still in the identify stage, but I will tell you the experimental stage is really fun. It really is fun. And so what I like to say, in other words, we're gonna understand reality, test what might work, standardize what works, and prove business value, okay? So we're gonna go through each stage of the framework and get into some details. The biggest thing about identifying, as I invited you in the beginning, is to have a beginner's mindset. We're all on this journey together, seriously. I mean, that's just not, fluffy talk. We're all on this journey together. All of us are learning. This is new for everybody. And I think you need to start by doing a self-assessment on where you actually are on this journey. And it's okay that you've been putting your head in the sand. It's okay that you've just used ChatGPT in your personal time to plan your vacation, okay? It's okay that you haven't asked your team to look into AI to help you. But we need to do a self-assessment and realize, where are we? Where are we, and why are we here? And more importantly, we need to get a clear view of our buyers and where trust drives the most value. I don't know how many people have bought software recently, but if you can obviously do it self-service, it's great, but if you've been having to go through a clunky process, it's not fun. And I would invite many of you, which I'll talk about, go talk to your buyers, go talk to your customers, because I learned a lot. I learned a lot by having those conversations. And so I won't go through the hypothesis, but I really believe that we must start from 0 to 1. We gotta make that leap from 0 to 1 and 1 to 2. And I'm gonna tell you about the story that I went that honestly rocked my world. And I've told many of people that this moment in time has me shook. Shook so much that I quit my job at the end of July after a really great run of 2 years with a lot of success, because I see the change that's happening. And so in February 2025, I got invited to Scale Venture Partners Conference by Craig Rosenberg, who I've known really well. Testbox at the time was going through potential fundraise in the next couple months, and so Scale Venture Partners said, hey, why don't you come to this private event for our portfolio companies and sit in these councils and these roundtables. And they asked me which one I wanted to sit in, and I said I want to sit in the RevOps Council and learn about GTM engineering. Shout out to Jen, who's here. She's one of the best. So when I walked into that room, I will tell you, I probably strutted in like, oh, I'm the CRO in the RevOps room. I know this stuff. What happened over those next 2 hours rocked my existence, changed to the core. Because what would happen is the RevOps professionals would get in the room on the screen in front of like 15 people, and they would walk through the AI-first go-to-market motion that they built. And I tell you, I have never seen anything like it. It went from I'm sitting there listening to grabbing a notebook, I didn't care whose notebook it was, furiously writing notes, to pulling out my phone, texting my RevOps consultant, taking tons of screenshots. It was unbelievable. And what was so unbelievable is I was seeing all these like small daily tasks of meeting prep and deal scoring and SPICE framework or BANT all being automated through AI. And there was a gentleman by the name of Antonio Garcia that was at Salesforce for 10 years, and then he is at Motion right now. And he literally showed this workflow where he takes Gong videos and runs them through Gemini 2.5 because Gemini 2.5 can track nonverbal cues. And so then it presented a nonverbal cue report based off what the Gong data had to say. I had never seen anything like it. And over the next 2 hours, it was use case after use case after use case. And I was a skeptic, right? I thought, okay, AI is great. I use a lot ChatGPT. I was skeptical about how it could influence my go-to-market motion. I've seen it. I've seen the light. And I've seen how it's going to empower my team and make my team better and deliver a better customer experience. And after that event, I went and started calling so many people. This is like a core premise of my life. It's like how Pre-Sales Collective started with UG, is like just calling people and learning what they're doing. How are they doing it? Where are they finding impact? And I learned that there was a lot of people doing some really innovative things that weren't on the radar. They just weren't on the radar. And in that moment, I realized, okay, I need to reevaluate and rethink everything that I know. And so that's what I want you all to do today. And so I've provided tactical takeaways in every section of the framework for you to take to your business. Because you can do this today. This is something you can do today. And if you don't do it today, you should do it tomorrow. Because your peers, your competitors, your employees are. There's a simple thing. If you're an individual SE, ask your boss and ask your manager for SE reports. If you're a leader, go to your CRO and ask them for reports on deal cycles and sales stages and look at it by different segments. You could talk to other builders and other people in this room building native AI go-to-market engines. And so I really want you to lean in and to learn because this is a great opportunity. And I don't want to talk about the fear of things, but the change is here. The change is happening. To what extent, we don't entirely know, but change is here and change is happening. It's in everyone's best interest to lean in and to learn. And assess the AI skills and the process gaps. Identify the bottlenecks. Just because we've done things a certain way doesn't mean we need to continue to do that. Think about it. Why do we do the things that we do? That is literally like one of the things that has made me leave companies. Like, this is the way we do things. Well, why? Why? Give me a better reason than this is what we do, okay? So we need to rethink that. And then we need to identify what is most urgent with the buyer journey. Is it that they request a demo and they get a follow-up call a week later, right? Do they talk to an SDR that bans them and then there's no conversion from lead to opportunity? Is there stalls in stage 2 to stage 3? What are those things? And go talk to your buyers. Go talk to your customers. This was the light bulb moment for me. And I'll be vulnerable here, right? Solutions engineer, had success in the role, started the Pre-Sales Collective, became a CRO, thought my go-to-market motion was awesome. It wasn't. I went and talked to buyers and talked to my customers. It wasn't very good. And I got that feedback. And I had to reestablish and relearn why. And then another part of this is reviewing the tech stack. Understand what products deliver value and are you fully leveraging them. This was something that we did and I'll talk about here momentarily because you'd be so surprised. Like, look at where Consensus has come. There's been many people who've been on this journey of Consensus for 5-8 years. And if you're just using one part of the product, it does so much more. That's how a lot of vendors are right now. And so you need to evaluate who's delivering value, who's actually a good partner. And this is where we move to the fun stage. And this is a stage that I like to call from skeptics to believers. Because as many solutions engineers, we like to tinker, we like to experiment. This is fun. And so this is where we get to run controlled pilots that are reducing risk, gaining insight, boosting productivity. Right? We get to try things that help our team, help our buyers, and we get to set the tone for a culture of innovation. Why did I try this and did it fail? Okay, it did. And that's okay. But what do we learn from it? How do we move past this? And so I think the idea of building a culture of innovation and encouraging yourself and your team to go and innovate and try things is really important. And there's gonna be a ton of people in this room that say, I work at a big company, I can't do these things. There's some things that you could do within your control, whether it's your own deals, your own team, and I'm encouraging you to think about that. And this is something that I like to call, the whoa moment for me, because I had a sales team that, I will be honest, was a bunch of skeptics. After I left that Scale Venture Partner Conference, what I did is I came back to my team and I said, we're changing everything. Everything's changing overnight. We're going to redo everything. Do you know what every single person on my team did? They tensed up. They got scared. They were like, all right, James is on a tangent. Watch out, okay? So I had to rethink and reevaluate, how am I going to make this part of our culture? How am I going to make this part of our day? How do I prove value? So I talked to a bunch of customers. I end up if those who know me know that I say this comment, as I don't micromanage people, I micromanage process. This has been core to my fundamentals for 15 years as a leader. And so what I did is I shadowed all of my reps. I sat on all of their calls, all their prep, and learned what they were doing and why they were doing it. And then I would talk to the customers. And what I identified very, very quickly is that we could not convey the value of what we did and why we were different. Because many people would say, oh, TestBox is a competitor in the stem automation category. We were actually very complementary to most of the products in the tech stack because we were synthetic data. And so we weren't conveying that very effectively. And so what did I do? I decided that not only were we not conveying our value enough, we weren't showing up to deliver value. My own reps were the reps that I avoid. That was a harsh moment, I'm not gonna lie. So what we had to do was rethink everything. And so what you see on this bottom is, what we decided to do was build a point of view deck. How could I make my reps show up to that call that a solutions leader wanted to have a conversation with them, that a CRO wanted to have a conversation with them, and how could they deliver value, which would ultimately turn into trust? And so what we ended up doing, very tactically, is using ChatGPT, Zapier, Google Docs, and Google Slides to build point of view decks. So instead of my reps doing their own research and trying to find what to do and what to say, we went and used ChatGPT and Zapier to automatically pull. So if you had a call with a customer, it would automatically go and do pull a high-level value prop on that customer. We would then cross-reference that with the TestBox value prop and come to an answer and then run it through deep research. And in deep research, it would then create this very, very detailed, long, I don't know how many people are using deep research. It's like 20, 25 pages. It's unbelievable. And the depth and accuracy is unbelievable. So we had everything that we needed to know about the customer, everything that related to our value prop, but ultimately the sales reps weren't going to read it. And so we turned it into a pre-call brief. And we put that pre-call brief into a document. That document pumped into Slack for them before their calls, and then ultimately pumped into their slide decks. There's no excuse not to deliver an excellent customer service. There's no excuse to not just wow your buyer. And so this was one of those moments where my reps were pretty against what I was doing. And one of the things, as a solution professional, you can appreciate this, I made my reps go and talk to everyone on the front line, AEs and SEs, before they talk to that executive. You better have a point of view and you better know what reality was like inside that business. And so we even took those notes and put them in. And I'll never forget, big company out there. We got a meeting with the executive. My rep ran a discovery for about 20 minutes. And then after that 20 minutes, he said, can I present a proof of value? Because I have a point of view on how we can provide value to your business. And we went through 3 slides. And I tell you not, her mouth dropped. And she said, you know my business better than I know my business. That was a wow moment. That was, okay, we're delivering value. We're delivering trust. That opened the door for us. And that is something we all can do. You can do this. It won't take you more than a couple of days. I promise you. And that is how we deliver a better customer experience that's customer focused, that's AI powered. And so one of these other things that we did, and I want to talk about a success and a failure here, is that I don't know how many people are using custom GPTs. Oh man, unbelievable. So this is my custom GPT. So I have a James Kaikis GPT that I pumped all of my presentations into, all of my podcasts, all of my blog articles, and most of the content I've done over the last 4 or 5 years. And the trick is, because there's a file limit, you just make your files like 500 pages so that everything is in there. So, and I use this James Kaikis GPT to even ask myself, what would James think about this? How would James approach this problem, right? And this core concept is something that we built into the sales process at TestBox. Because I mentioned that TestBox was a hard sale, right? Because we're fighting so many external dynamics, and my reps were struggling to articulate the value prop. And so what we decided to do was take all those documents in the POV docs that I mentioned and go online and go to companies' help centers, their public webinars, and find as much public information as humanly possible about them. And we put all of that into a document, and then we ran it through a custom GPT that said, give us an analysis about how TestBox can solve their problems. That allowed us to create this incredible document of how TestBox would deliver value to such customer. Except it didn't, I'm not gonna lie. It was too nice, it didn't work very well. It said we could do things that we couldn't do. So that failed. And we tried it with a couple of customers, it didn't work. So one of my employees actually said, I have a better idea. He said, I'm gonna make it a demo gap analysis. And if anyone's been following me over the last couple of years, I've seen that we've put out the demo gap analysis in that framework, because what we end up doing is doing slide by slide inside a trial or a proof of concept to analyze your demo and your demo environment and tell you where the gaps were and tell you where the weak spots were and build that into a report. So instead of me doing a disco to you and going through that sales process, I can give you an analysis of what we view as the gaps in your business. And we sometimes were harsh, but that's how we built trust. That's how we delivered value in a sales process. And that is very different than what a lot of us are doing today. And what's crazy is that happened pretty quickly, right? You're using AI to do these things very, very quickly. And so the custom GPTs, if you haven't looked into this, please, this is something you could do today, right? Even for yourself, right? Even for your LinkedIn posts or your presentations or anything. Very, very powerful stuff. And so I like to call this from ideas to evidence, because we get to tinker, we get to try things that are going to make our teams better at their jobs. They're not doing the manual task work. I'm gonna talk about a story there here momentarily, but they're putting things in action. It's creating a fun culture of innovation. You're not doing a hackathon once a year. You're doing a hackathon every quarter. You're putting your teams in pods or grabbing another colleague and say, let's try to solve this problem together. Because your C-suite, they're getting pressure from their board, build an AI strategy. And there's two options that they're taking. They're against it and they're waiting, or they're entirely leaning in but they don't know how. And they say, go figure it out, right? And that's on us to figure it out. And it's on us to experiment. Because if you're in a big company or a small company, you can't just come in like I did and say, we're changing everything. It doesn't work. And as we talked about in Doug's presentation and my presentation, there's a lot of fear and anxiety and feelings about this. Because this doesn't actually replace our jobs. It's a multiplier. It makes our jobs easier and more effective. And when you can't hire people on your team and you still have the same goals and they're probably growing and the quotas are increasing, you have to figure out a way to solve. And this is, this great level setting moment for many of us, because no one has done this before. Only the people over the last year have really done this. And I'd like to encourage you to really think about the customer journey and the customer impact. The data point that I mentioned, that 81% of people are dissatisfied, there's a lot of reasons for that. You can improve that. You are in control of that. And so this is where we go from pilot to process. And this is the hardest part of the framework. But if you can get through this, it can have massive impact on your business, which we'll talk momentarily. This is where it becomes part of your cultural DNA. Experiments and innovation are part of the DNA. This is what we do. And everyone does it, and everyone's bought in, because it's not replacing their job, it's making them more effective. It's making your customers happier, okay? And it's cross-functional, because it doesn't matter if you're doing this in the silo of your own team. You have to get this out. And I know a lot of times pre-sales professionals don't want all the limelight and all the pressure, right? Of like, oh man, this is on my CEO and board's radar. I tell you, it's the best thing ever. It'll be the best thing ever for your team and for justification and for your careers. And so think about all that mundane tasks, all that mundane work that's delivering a subpar experience, and how can we make it part of our core DNA? Because I will tell you that there are companies out there that are working in AI native, and they are attracting talent. People want to go work there. Just a reality. I'm sure Yuji can tell you that. And so I talked about my experiment and trying to go all in. So what I decided to do is say, we're going to build an AI-first go-to-market organization. If I could redo everything from day one, I could start over. What would I do? Why would I do it? How would I do it? And so the questions I tend to ask myself is, what is the process? What are our internal processes? What are our external processes? Where are the bottlenecks? What is our customer experience? Where do we need AI? Where can AI help us deliver that better customer experience? Make us show up to deliver value, to build trust. Because it can be very, very effective in that busy work that I mentioned. But where can it be a multiplier? And most importantly, where do we want humans? I'm here to tell you that we are not moving to a world where robots buy from robots anytime soon. Okay? Humans are too resilient. Okay? Where do we want humans? Where does a human in the loop make an outsized impact? Because too many people, and you'll hear the MIT study about things not working. Well, I'm here to tell you that they are, because I've talked to dozens and dozens of people that are building things that are working. Where do you want human in the loop? Because if you decide to do these things without a human in the loop, you will fail. No wonder it doesn't work, okay? And this was actually the tech stack that we built at TestBox, where we utilize a lot of different technologies to be able to arm our team to deliver value and to build trust and to ultimately deliver a better customer experience. And I will say, transparently, we were on that journey when I stepped away, right? But this was the tech stack that we had. And I remember one of my reps, especially the biggest skeptic of the rep, told me, we've built more process and success in 2 weeks in the last 6 months that I've been here, right? And that was on me. That was on me. That was a miss on me. But once we had it, the light bulb moment went off. And as you can see, there's so many technologies out there. There are so many technologies that can do so much for you. And this was our tech stack. And we built a crawl, walk, run mechanism. I don't have my run slide, but it was pretty incredible. And if you look at the cost of all this, it is typically less than a human. And so my favorite story, and if you don't follow Megan Spork on LinkedIn, you should check her out. I've had the privilege of working with Megan at Showpad, and then she was a consultant for me at Pre-Sales Collective. And then when I was hiring a head of marketing, I asked Megan to join us. And the best thing about Megan is that in a world of specialists, try to be a solutions leader and go hire for marketing. It is very specialized. And we as solutions professionals forget how generalized we actually are. Megan was that generalist. She had come up from PR, she had owned content, she had done product marketing, and so she had this skill set that I thought we needed for the business. Megan told me when she joined that, hey, we're trying to family plan, so I'm gonna be having a child. I said, that's fine, no problem. So back to the February event, I leave this event and I say, we're going AI first. Megan and I have a really frank conversation, and she says, James, so she's pregnant at this time, and she's due at the end of May. She said, James, I'm stressing about going on maternity leave because TestBox had a 3-month leave policy and we were not planning on backfilling her, right? So we had to figure something out. Small company before Series A. What were we going to do? And Megan said, why don't I automate my entire job before I leave? I was like, all right, this sounds cool. Let's try it. So we spent the next month prepping and planning on what life would be like without Megan there, but her job to be done. And I tell you, I've only told the story to a couple people. Devin Reed's a good friend of mine. Devin Reed said, and Devin Reed is pretty well known in the marketing world. He's like, this has been talked about. I don't think anyone's ever done it. We did it. And so what we did is essentially lead scoring, automated outreach, AI assist blogs. Many people in this room helped me write a blog. You probably were like, where's that blog at? Well, we were holding it for the release when Megan was out. Slack messages, product marketing releases. That was a little tricky. But essentially what we did was we planned and prioritized. What were all the things that needed to get done while Megan was out? We wrote down all the tasks. We listed them out, who would do them, how they would get done. We automated and delegated. So we did have a group of consultants from folks that we both used in our previous career, and we started getting to work. Writing the content, writing the copy. All the social media LinkedIn posts were written months in advance. Everything, and it was scheduled. We created and scheduled those assets. And then ultimately, even my newsletter, for those that are following my newsletter, I wrote those like months in advance. Like my commitment to Megan was, let me write everything in advance to make your job easier, to go AI first. And then communicate and enable the team. So much so that Megan scheduled messages for the 3 months that she was out, and Ghost Megan would message the team with a new post on LinkedIn, a new product marketing blog, where to use it, how to use it, when to use it. This is real. I'm here to tell you. And it wasn't to replace Megan. It was to supplement her, because I didn't want her to go on leave and have anxiety about the business, being a small business and where we were. So we put a massive challenge on ourselves, and it delivered. Most people in this room would have never known that everything was written months in advance and scheduled, and you would have never known. We'd never missed a beat. And now that she's back at TestBox, she has this incredible tool set for her to use as the head of marketing. So much so where she told me, I don't need to hire as many people on this team anymore. I can actually start hiring for different people. So it can be done. And we made it part of our DNA and part of our workflow. And so this is where we start to shift to the standard. I'll tell you, we all remember show and tell when we were a kid. Show and tell is your friend. We love demos, we love showing things. Go show and tell to your entire organization. As someone who worked at Salesforce, I had this unique opportunity when I was in manufacturing that I was the central leader, but I had employees and supported the East and the West Coast. So I was the only leader that oversaw the entire country with all AVPs. Let me tell you, I tried things in different regions, and every single one of those AVPs were like, why are you not doing it in my region? Why are you not doing it in my region? Okay? It's a copycat world. It really is. Right? So there's a way to go on a show and tell tour, host office hours, show and highlight the innovation of you and your teams. Okay? Measure the impact, because this is where experiments fail. If you are not establishing the success criteria and measuring the impact, we're just doing things for fun at the end of the day, okay? And you have to create a culture of refining this process. As I mentioned before, you can't just have a hackathon once a year and like, all right, cool, these are all the things we're gonna do for the year. It has to be part of the cultural DNA. It has to be part of it, a culture of innovation. And this is where things start to get a little crazy, is how do you incentivize behaviors? I've learned this so much in my career, especially as a CRO working with a board and investors. Incentives drive behaviors. How can you compensate your team in your own sphere of influence or other spheres of influence on these behaviors? And so when you do all of this, this is where impact comes. And I will say not a lot of people are on this entire journey of the impact, but I have a couple stories to share with you. Because the impact is real. And this is why you see people saying, oh, the humans are replacing our jobs. They don't know the layers deeper, right? They don't know the power that can happen to make AI a multiplier. Because you can actually see measurable impacts and revenues and margins and customer retentions and stage progressions. I promise you, you can see this. And you're not just delivering value as a product to your customers, you are a partner of them. They see ROI. They're getting value. Think about the sales process that I mentioned. If I was a solutions leader and someone pitched me on a demo gap analysis of my own team, I'll probably get a little bit like defensive at first, but then be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Think about the value that delivers in the sales process. And how do we think about the go-to-market operator of the future? And how does this actually start to work toward the go-to-market operator in the future that many people in this room are well positioned for? And how do you share these wins? Because I will tell you, when you share the wins, talent wants to come work for you, and customers flock to you. They do. They want to work with innovative companies. They absolutely do. And so this is a good friend of mine, Jody Geiger. She's been on this journey with me because we're both building AI native go-to-market. So much so that her and I are doing some fun things together. We just announced this week. But Jody was the head of sales at Clue, and if anyone knows Clue, Clue has been pretty AI forward. Their CEO is extremely innovative, extremely AI forward. has demanded that 1 day a week is meant for AI and makes all the executives present the innovations on a week-to-week basis on what's happening in their business. So Jody decided that she was going to build the AI-first go-to-market org, but she already had a team, they were already in flight, and she did a lot of the things that we mentioned, the opportunity briefs, the prospect research, the business cases, content automation, and she was able to save 1,400 human hours in 2 quarters. And here's the crazy part that she doesn't talk about. Those runs, the AI runs, cost 75 cents per run. 75 cents to run these things that would have taken human hours, 1 hour, 2 hours. And think about the cumulative hours, and you obviously see the projection. And this just doesn't happen at small companies, right? It happens at big companies. And one big company I want to highlight is ServiceNow. And if anyone works at ServiceNow or you've seen ServiceNow and seen what they've been presenting to the public, their Now Assist is blowing up. It is growing insane because they're moving to this AI-first, AI-native world. And it's making an impact. And so, again, it's going to take us some time to get to this stage, but this is where we turn proof into progress. This is how we build trust. This is how we deliver an AI-powered go-to-market organization that people flock to. And so you really have to align your teams around those outcomes and put it on the scoreboard. You have to put it on the scoreboard. You got to celebrate the wins. You got to tell a story with data. It's extremely, extremely important. It takes time to get to here. It does take time. But again, it can happen. It's been proven. We've seen it. And so, again, the framework of identify, experiment, embed, and impact, I'd like you to ask yourself, where are you on that journey? Where is your team on that journey? Where is your business on that journey? And how do you start progressing to the next stage? Because that is what the future of go-to-market looks like, because we are going through the great go-to-market shift. Yes, this is my brand. And yes, I thought it'd be great to talk about a great go-to-market shift, because it is an evolution. You already heard it from Doug. There's a massive shift happening. The playbooks are outdated. Things are evolving. I have talked to CROs who have used the word extinct for their careers. They're like, I'm going extinct if I don't want to lean in and start to think about this amazing opportunity. And so I've been hosting roundtables and getting to know CROs to figure out how we lean into this. And I encourage you to listen to Jen's session later today. She doesn't even know I'm promoting her. But she is built this, right? She's seen this. She knows how this happens and how this works. Because this isn't just a concept, it's guidance. It's our responsibility as operators to lead in this next era. Because the go-to-market operator of the future is actually here. It's here. I will tell you, I believe I'm one of those people. A solutions leader turned entrepreneur turned CRO. And there are many of those people. There are many. There become more and more on a weekly basis. And that is where we all need to lean in. And like for the solutions professionals in the world, I always say we need to move from discos and demos to dollars and cents. We need to be able to talk fluent. Paul, I see you. I see you, Paul. Paul and I have been having a lot of conversations on this topic because we have to evolve. The demands of us have changed. We are really well positioned to be cross-functional. That's literally what we do. And so I want to, again, invite you to this opportunity to lean in, because trust and value are the ultimate currency, and you can be a catalyst of change. This is happening, and this is an exciting moment that most of us have never seen in our careers. And so we need to lean in and embrace it. I want you to walk out of this room thinking, what is one thing I can do for myself and for my team coming out of this meeting? So I want to thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to be at the happy hour. I'll be around all day. I'm open to conversation. I have been doing an interview series with solutions leaders, venture capitalists, CROs, talking about the future of go-to-market. What does it mean? How does it mean? So this is my link tree, selfish plug. I've got plenty of interviews with some of the best in the business that will give you tactical guidance into why this is happening and how this is happening. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.